Cool. Hello. I just got home. As you can potentially see, just took my belt off, untuck my shirt, feeling good, feeling comfortable. We are gonna talk about Sudan on this live stream. Cool. Rad. I'm gonna take a minute, let other people get on this live stream, and then we can start. Cool. Feeling comfy. Rad. So if you're confused as to what this live stream is, I promised on Twitter, and I also posted it on my Instagram story, that I would be talking about why your social media has probably gone completely blue for Sudan. And if you have never heard of Sudan before, I think that's okay. It's a country kind of in, how do I describe, like northeastern Africa. It's very large. They had a brutal civil war with now its own country, South Sudan, and that's one of the newest countries in the world. Anyway, yeah, I guess we'll get started. So I think to accurately talk about what's actually going on in Sudan, you have to go back about 30 years. Because for the last 30 years, since 1989, Sudan has had this president, officially this president, but really this dictator, whose name is Omar al-Bashir. And in about December of last year, people got really fed up, and they started protesting in the streets of Khartoum, the capital. He took over in 1989 in this big coup, and he had some elections, but they were all very much rigged. And in Sudan, he was, by no means was he like this benevolent, great ruler that everybody loved. He was bad. It was estimated that more than 15,000 villagers were killed by the government-backed Janjaweed militia between 2003 and 2004, and millions of Sudanese people have been displaced by this government-backed militia. Sorry, I'm pulling back to the thing. This is not a history lesson. This is just background as to why everything is going blue right now. The Janjaweed militia was also accused of raping women, and the government was also accused of using chemical weapons against their, I have this written in my notes, Darfur community. So the international community also freaking hated him. The International Criminal Court, which is the UN's judicial body, it doesn't have a ton of real power, but it issued an arrest warrant in 2009 on charges of genocide, literal genocide, and other war crimes related to that militia and the killing and the raping. And in 2014, they had to suspend that case because there wasn't enough international support. But that was just the beginning of it, because in December, these huge protests all across Sudan started. Security forces in the beginning started using these very violent measures against demonstrators. Tons of deaths, I believe in the hundreds, were reported in the beginning, and that was kind of up until about 2 months ago. In April, Bashir was arrested. This dictator/president, he was arrested, and he was removed from power in what was really a fairly peaceful coup. Most of the military was on the same side together. There wasn't much of an uprising. There wasn't much of a fight put up by the president himself, because I don't think that the general consensus is that he didn't think that this was actually going to happen. And so they took him, they arrested him. And the protesters were so freaking pumped. They were dancing in the streets. There's amazing video of just pure joy from these protesters. But it didn't last for long, because the military council that had taken over power, at first they took negotiations with the opposition, with the protesters very, 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 very seriously. And they agreed on a 3-year transition period, but that changed really fast. And in May, the talks broke down. And the breakdown of those talks led to this big civil disobedience campaign that started, with most Sudanese not going to work. And that could have massive economic implications. Anyway, in the meantime, beyond just that, the bloodshed in Sudan has only gotten worse. Soldiers and paramilitary groups earlier this month opened fire on a pro-democracy sit-in in the capital, which left at least 118 people dead. And I want to say that again. Soldiers fired on a peaceful sit-in and killed 118 people, innocent protesters. So, this is clearly a very, very fragile state of affairs. And if the two sides in this argument, if they don't talk, if they don't come together and make actual discussions, this can and will fall into civil war. So, why is everything going blue? Mohammed Hashim Matar was shot dead by the Sudanese paramilitary during a crackdown in protesters in the capital on June 3rd. And his favorite color, which was blue, now we're getting into it, was used on all of his social media, and all of his friends and family put up the color on their profiles after he was killed. So that soon spread among a bunch of different social media users who used the color not only to honor this one protester, but also the other people who had died during this massive Sudanese uprising. So hashtags like #BlueForSudan and Rihanna putting up the color, things like that have brought a lot of awareness to the situation. So now I need to look through my notes. Due to a media shutdown in the country, protesters are using social media as like a last resort to bring attention, and this has been the biggest way that it has happened so far. So it is fantastic to see this happening. This military uprising has been something that I've been following since it kind of started, but this is the biggest that I've seen, like, people who aren't obsessed with like international affairs looking at it. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on. I'm going to go Blue for Sudan on my Twitter. I'm about to end this live stream. And I think that it's just kind of important that everybody knows about that. So, yeah. Thank you for tuning in. You should go Blue for Sudan. You can call your representatives, 202-224... If you want to get involved, you can call the Congressional Switchboard, 202-224-3121, or you can go to your own representatives' websites. They will all have contact sheets. You should tell them to support diplomatic action. I probably wouldn't suggest, I don't know. Support diplomatic action to de-escalate tensions in Sudan. Call them, email them, tweet them. Yes. All of those things. Thanks for tuning in, gang. Yeah.